Hello, I'm Alexia. Let me help you to take the fear out of birth with a mix of real-life positive birth stories and birthing experts sharing their wisdom. I'll also be sharing tips to help you get into the fearless mindset. Fear Free Childbirth is the online destination for women seeking to take the fear out of birth, with fear clearance meditations, online fear clearance courses and programmes for overcoming tocophobia. Find out more at fearfreechildbirth.com. Hello and welcome back to the Fear Free Childbirth podcast. This is me, your host, Alexia Leachman. Thank you so much for joining me today. Well, I'm back. I know it's been ages, hasn't it? It feels like damn ages. Well, I have been recording lots of episodes since you've heard me last on the podcast, but I've also been incredibly busy doing lots of other stuff behind the scenes. So what have I been up to? Some of it you'll be interested in, some of it maybe less interested in. But the big thing for me is the launch of my book, Fearless Birthing, and the other book as well, which I've written, which is called Clear Your Head Trash. Now, yes, 2 books. I brought out 2 books in 6 months, and there's a little bit of a story behind that, and I'll just share it with you quickly. I brought out my Fearless Birthing book in January 2018, December, January. And I really, at that point, when I brought that out, a lot of my, the people that have been following my work, my head trash work, before I started doing this birth work, were like, well, that's great, Lex. Now you've brought the birth book out. What about the head trash book that you were writing? And that's because when I first sat down to write my head trash book, when I was on maternity leave with my second daughter, that book became the birth book because I was getting so many emails from women that I didn't know asking me how I'd cleared my fears. And so as a business coach, I decided to write my mindset book, my head trash book, and then it became the birth book. And then I was like, oh, damn, Lex, what have you done? You're a business coach and you've just written a book on birth. And that's what launched the podcast. I decided to launch the podcast to share some of the content, the ideas that I was writing in the Fearless Birthing book. And then the podcast just got a little bit crazy and carried away. And then I had to park my head trash business for a while. And so in the last year or so, I've been kind of waking it up a bit, getting back to it, doing more of that head trash work as well, because I really enjoy doing sort of more general head trash clearance with my clients as well as the birth stuff. So that's what I've been doing. I ended up deciding that, I had these people saying, hey, Lex, where's the head trash book? And I was like, I was racked with guilt and thought, okay, I know I'm going to set myself a ridiculous goal and see if I can do it. I'm going to try and write and publish my head trash book in 60 days. And as I just published the Fearless Birthing book, I thought, well, it's all still fresh in my mind, the whole publishing process, getting a book on Amazon and all that jazz. That then while it's still fresh in my mind, because it's a little bit of a learning curve, that one, I'll get it out. Now, I did fail miserably with the 60-day goal, but that's okay because I did it in 111 days instead. And so the head trash book came out in April, and that is called Clear Your Head Trash. And basically the difference between those two, well, it's fairly obvious, I would hope, but in both of them, I share the head trash clearance method. But the Fearless Birthing book is really applying that to birth preparation with a load of extra birth stuff. Now, I'm going to spend today's episode talking about the Fearless Birthing book because I get a lot of questions and emails from women asking me, what should I read? I need to get more information. I need to prepare for birth. Tell me what materials I need to read. Well, the answer to that question, ladies, is you need to read my book. Now, I don't mean to be this salesy, icky, like Reno, selling all my stuff person, but it is my podcast, so I have every right to do that. And if you don't like that, then you can just switch off. This is a lot of work doing this podcast, so I'm allowed to talk about my stuff. But the truth is, I haven't read any other birth books. I've read Mindful Hypnobirthing by Sophie Fletcher, and I only read that very late in my pregnancy because I went to one of her courses. But the thing with women who have tocophobia, because in my first pregnancy I had tocophobia, if you don't know that, is it's very difficult to read books on birth because it can be very triggering for your fears. And so I didn't read any books. I had a book that I read that completely freaked me out and I couldn't look at the diagrams. I couldn't do anything with it, so I had to keep it closed. And so my first pregnancy was very much focused on the fear clearance, the mindset. And that is how I prepared for my birth. And it did me very, very well. So, so I'm the last person that you want to ask about what books you should be reading for pregnancy and birth preparation, unless you want to hear the obvious answer, which is buy my book, which is called Fearless Birthing, in case you haven't figured that one out already. But if you're in my Facebook group, then that's a brilliant place to ask that question, because there are loads of women in there devouring pregnancy and birth books. There are doulas that just have read every birth book on the planet that can point you in the right direction. So so that's where you need to ask the question if you want to know the best things to read. But I am going to go back to talking about Fearless Birthing. Now I'm going to start off with the best review ever that I've got on Amazon, which I'm just so chuffed with. There's a lady called, I think Charlie is her name. Thank you so much, Charlie. But she said about the book, it's a step on from hypnobirthing, the best book I've read about birthing, and this is my third baby. It's the one book I'd recommend. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm so chuffed with that review. So if you're listening, I think it's Charlie, then thank you very, very much. This means a lot to me. If you have read the book, please do leave me a review on Amazon. The thing with Amazon is that you can't reach more people. It's reviews that really help you to do that. So if you have read the book and enjoyed it, I would really, really appreciate a review on Amazon. And I will probably read it out on the podcast because I'm so chuffed to get reviews on Amazon. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the book, Fearless Birthing. And so really, if you want to get a sense of what the book's about, it's really the book that I wish I could have read when I was pregnant and scared. And all of the content has been chosen as it relates to your fears and your mindset. So it's definitely not a complete birth education book. What you're not going to find in it are the 3 stages of labour. There are plenty of books that will share that information with you. What this book is a mindset book. It's a book on preparing your mind, your mental state, your emotional state for birth prep. And so I bring in elements of birth education if it's relevant to fear and mindset, where it might have an impact on fear and mindset. So for example, due dates gets a big mention because that really messes up with your head as you come into the last few weeks of your birth. Now, I'm not going to go on about due dates because I've done a whole episode on due dates. And also one thing that you'll notice as I am just going to skim through the chapters. I'm not going to go into any great depth at all. But one thing that you will notice is that a lot of the chapters will sound very familiar to you because I've done episodes on them, because as I was writing the book, I would share what I was writing as part of the podcast. And the things that have made it in the book are podcast episodes that have scored really, really highly, had a lot of downloads, have a lot of interest in them, have a lot of comments on the blog, or I've received a lot of emails from women saying how much that episode has helped them. So this podcast has really helped me to select things for the book that I think women are going to find interesting, that are going to be really helpful to that birth journey, because I know they're helpful because of all the feedback that I've had from my wonderful listeners here on the podcast. So this has been a team effort, actually. The book has been very much a team effort. I've, when I've put blog posts out, there were early drafts of certain chapters and people have commented and come back to me with things, and I've changed them. I've really taken them on board, additional perspectives, because my journey is just one journey of many. And I didn't want it to be a book about my journey in birth. I really wanted it to be a book to help all women to deal with whatever is going on in their heads, to help them to prepare for their fearless birth, whatever it looks like for them. And so this isn't a book with an agenda on birth type. This isn't a book about you will have the natural birth. It's not the natural rant. It's not the anti-C-section book. It's the birth your baby the way that you need to birth your baby, so that you come out feeling amazing about your birth and that you've made the right decision for you. And for some women, that is a C-section. For some women, that's opting for an epidural in a hospital setting. And for some women, that's a home birth. And all of those births are absolutely fabulous because they are the birth that the woman wants. If you end up changing your birth and having a different birth to the one you want, but you can handle it, that you can roll with the punches, that you can deal with it, and you still come out feeling like you had an amazing birth, that's the birth that you were meant to have. That's the birth that enabled you to learn so much about who you are and what you're made of. And that's going to make you feel empowered, strong, confident going into motherhood. That's what all this is about. It's about creating strong mothers, because it's not just a baby that's born that day. It's a mother that's born, and I want that woman to be strong. I want her to be fearless, because the world needs this right now. We're in a really, I don't want to get too political, but the world is a little bit messed up, and women are rising. Women need to be strong. And this book teaches mental resilience and emotional resilience and mental toughness. Because if you can deal with what birth throws at you, you can deal with anything. And when you come out of that, that's exactly what you feel. When you've come out having an amazing birth and you've had to deal with a 28-hour labour and things have changed, but you dealt with it and you still came out feeling strong and confident, that gives you a level of confidence that really nothing can beat, and that will stay with you forever. And so that's really what this book will help you to achieve. And I know it does, because I get so many emails from women telling me exactly that. So when I'm telling you that this book does this, I know it does. And so that's all I'm going to say, because I have absolute confidence that I know this book can help you to have the fearless birth that you want. So what I will say is that obviously there's a lot of instructions in the book, because I do teach my fear clearance method. And so if you want to clear your fears, in the book, you will find the fear clearance method. But some people don't like doing everything from a book. They need more, don't they? They want videos. They need extra help. They want hand-holding. They think they're doing it wrong. They want to check if they're doing it right. All that kind of stuff. So if preparing for birth using the fearless birthing approach is something that you really want to do, and a book is not enough for you, then there is the Fearless Birthing Academy, which is the online version of the book with loads of videos to help you, to really help you to get to grips with how to do the fear clearance, how to unpack your fears, because that's the big challenge with preparing for birth. It's having that clarity about what your fears are so that you can clear them. You know, some people have so much fear that it just feels like a big dark cloud. And so being able to unravel that and sort of pick out the different strands isn't necessarily a straightforward thing for everybody. And so, so some people might appreciate extra support. So there is the Fearless Birthing Academy, which you can find at fearless-birthing.com/academy. And that's the online program. But and also, while I'm talking about fearless birthing, you can, if you're a birth professional and you want to use the fearless birthing approach, the fear clearance method from fearless birthing with your clients to help them to overcome their fears, there is a professional training course as well, which you can find at fearless-birthing.com/training. So yes, there's a new website, fearless-birthing.com, that goes with the book. So so there's lots of stuff that this is what I've been busy doing since the podcast has been on, is preparing and creating these things to enable the stuff behind fearless birthing, the things that can help you to clear your fears, to put it out in a way that means that it's not just me that does this, that many, many women can benefit from having access to the fear clearance method. And if they want one-to-one support, they can go and hire a doula. They can go and hire, maybe their midwife will be trained in it and can help them while they're in birth. You know, this is not about me. This is about helping all women everywhere to take the fear out of birth. And that's birth pros too, because they have fear. It's not just women who are pregnant going into birth with fear. The professionals around them have fear. They have to deal with difficult situations, and they've got to kind of bring their best version to every birth as well, which isn't always easy. So, what I teach helps to build emotional resilience, not just with pregnant women, but with everybody that's involved in birth. Anyway, so enough of that waffling, which I'm very good at. That's the thing about doing a podcast, is you become really good at doing the whole waffling thing. And I'm pretty chatty anyway, actually. If you catch me in a social setting, I am pretty chatty. Anyway, so this is, I'm just going to talk through, I've got the book in front of me, so I can hear some pages in the background. And so I'm just going to talk you through the chapters. Now, there are 15 chapters, so I'm going to be really top line. It's no detail at all. And I'll also mention where some of my previous podcast episodes will enable you to sort of dive down a little bit deeper into some of these aspects. And also, I've got loads of new episodes coming up on the show where I'm diving into some of this as well. So I'll mention some of the future episodes that I've got coming that I think will be relevant as well. So the first chapter really just introduces, fear in birth. I talk about tocophobia, my own journey with tocophobia, and also the reason why you'd want a fear-free birth. Because some people say, well, what's the point in having a fear-free birth? Why should I even bother? Surely I'll just go in, have the epidural, and just pretend, it's only going to last a day tops. I'll just deal with it. Well, there's reasons why it's a good idea to think about having a fear-free birth that can really have an impact on you, your baby, the birth, everything. So I really talk that through in that chapter. Chapter 2 is really just to introduce you to what fearless birthing is about, and the technique behind it, the fear clearance technique that's behind it. And also I share a really great fearless birthing story from one of my, not a listener, is it a listener? Is it a client, somebody who, I think it was an early client of mine. I can't remember, such a long time ago now, because I've been developing this work for about 7 years. So some of this stuff, and the book's been, I've been writing the book for, my little one just turned 4, okay? And I started writing it when she was 3 weeks old. So yeah, I took 3 years to write this book, because I was tweaking it, evolving it, and testing it out on people, doing work with people and seeing what they were getting and tweaking what I was doing. So this work has been going on for a long time. This is a culmination of lots of years of work. Now, chapter 3 is about the consciousness of pregnancy. Now, when I was researching this, there really isn't a lot around the consciousness of pregnancy. And I don't know if you know the book Conscious Parenting, which I think is a fabulous book. And I think almost Fearless Birthing is almost like the prequel to Conscious Parenting. If you don't know Conscious Parenting, the lady who wrote the book has done some incredible YouTube videos that are she's absolutely fabulous. And I can't remember her name now, but wonderful. Look into Conscious Parenting. But really, for me, if you're drawn to the idea of conscious parenting, then it really does begin with a conscious pregnancy. And so what is that exactly? That's about being deliberate with your mind, with your thoughts, with your actions, and being mindful. And so that also means that as you're having a conscious pregnancy and you want to be a conscious parent, that you're aware of your own baggage and how that will impact your children. And if you want to kind of stop the pattern, you want to stop, if you were affected by your parents' patterns, your parents' behaviours, your parents' fears and anxieties, and you really don't want to pass that on to your own kids, then taking a stop, like taking some time in your pregnancy to stop and think about, well, what are my patterns? What are the things that I don't want to pass on to my kids? My negative habits, my negative emotional habits, the ways that I sabotage. During your pregnancy, this is the time to do that. And the Fearless Birthing book will show you how to do that as well, because it really is about being mindful of your own trigger points, of your own stress points. And, when your baby comes, they are going to be the expert on pushing your buttons. So you're better off trying to clear away as many of these buttons before baby arrives, so that your journey into motherhood isn't as fraught as those mums that are getting their buttons pushed daily by their kids. So yeah, that's what the consciousness of pregnancy chapter is about. It's really about helping you to think about, what does that mean for you, and what are you doing what could you do right now to help you to prepare for conscious parenting, if that's really what you want to be doing. So the next chapter is about raising the consciousness of pregnancy and birth. So it really ties into the conscious elements of pregnancy. But there's a section here on prenatal enrichment, and this is about what you can do while you're carrying your baby to nurture your baby while baby's in utero, and the impact of various behaviours, thoughts can have on your baby while you're carrying them. Now, I have done an episode on this. So I think the episode I've done 7 behaviours that affect your baby while you're pregnant. I think that's the title of it. One of my top episodes, I swear, it's one of my top blog posts as well. I get a lot of traffic coming into my site reading that. It's very extensive blog post, and in fact that's because it was the beginnings of the chapter that has made it into the book. But it really is very interesting, and for me there's some stuff in there that can trigger fear, I think, where people are worried that, oh well, if I have difficult emotions, if I'm struggling with fear, if I'm struggling with anxiety and stress, and that's going to affect my baby, and I'm now I feel this is making me feel bad. That's not what this is about. This is about being informed on such matters, so that if it does make you feel bad that you're having these feelings, then you can start doing something about it. If you went through your pregnancy and you had terrible stress, terrible anxiety, your job, whatever, there was a death in the family, whatever it is, and you don't know that can have an impact on your baby, then you're not in a position to do anything about it. What I'm really keen to do is to give you information so that you can decide to take action if that's what you want. You don't have to take action, but that's entirely up to you. And once you know and you're informed, you're taking informed action. And then if you don't want to do anything, that's fine. But at least you're doing that from a mindful perspective. So that's what that chapter's about. And the research that I did as part of that chapter really introduced me to the idea, or to the work of prenatal psychology, which leads me on to an episode that's coming up in this podcast, which I'm incredibly excited about. I interviewed the father of prenatal psychology, which I cannot believe I managed to do this. But one of the books that I basically pored over when I was pregnant, not when I was pregnant, so when I was researching the book, was The Life of the Unborn Child by one of the writers was Thomas Verney. Now he is like amazing for the birth professionals listening. You'd be like, oh my God, yes, Thomas Verney. Well, I've interviewed him, and there's an episode coming up with him, which I'm very excited about, where you'll learn a lot more about this prenatal enrichment, about what happens in utero. So that's incredibly exciting. So that's a really good chapter. Should I rate my chapters? I don't know. Chapter 5 is about stress and pregnancy. Now, we all know, I don't know, well, maybe we don't all know, but I certainly was very cognizant of the fact that when you're stressed during pregnancy, it can have a really bad impact on the baby. And I know this because personally, I was highly motivated to sort out my own stress, because I was born with asthma, eczema, allergies, and it was horrific. Now, I know there are far worse conditions to be born with, but it was not nice. I got bullied because of my eczema. I couldn't do sport because of my asthma. I can't have pets. I mean, it's just, it was a ghastly situation. And for me, when I was looking into that, I learned that maternal stress during pregnancy is more likely to mean that your baby is born with that trio. So I really didn't want my kids to have asthma or eczema or allergies in the way that I did. So it was really important for me to kind of deal with my stress. But I didn't realise going into pregnancy that I had all fear and anxiety to deal with as well. I mean, I had a boatload of stuff to sort out. But I think it's important to think about stress, because you can deal with this. And what I talk about in here is really how for you to identify your own triggers for stress, so that you can start working on this yourself. Again, the technique that I share in the book enables you to sort this out. So it's really helping you to identify your own stress triggers so that you can start clearing it up. And also, this is part of your buttons. Whatever stresses you in life is going to stress you in life when baby's around, except when you're doing that with no sleep, you're going to be way more stressed. So this is a really good time to sort this stuff out. So that's what chapter 5 is about. So chapter 6 is due date stress. I don't need to talk about due date stress because I've got episodes to talk about this. But it's basically about, being informed about your due date, checking that you've got a due date that you can buy into, that you're confident in. Get my due date cheat sheet that gives you a due date that's based on science, as opposed to the due date system that's widely used that isn't. So, I'm not going to go into that because there's an episode on that, and I've ranted about this many, many times. Then chapter 7 is about the childbirth lies, all the lies and the myths and the nonsense that we're told about birth. Again, I've talked about this loads, and I've done episodes on this, so I'm not going to go into that in any detail. Then there's a chapter on pain and childbirth. And what's really interesting about pain is the psychology of pain, and how most pain is emotional pain that we experience, not actual physical pain. And there's data, research, evidence, whatever you want to call it, to back this up out of Stanford. So I'm not talking nonsense here, and I'm not talking woo-woo either. But understanding pain, especially as it's one of the biggest fears that women have when it comes to birth. Well, I say biggest, it's one of the most common. I get a lot of emails from women, and pain is often, it's probably featured pretty much in every email when I get women talking to me about their fears. So I think it's really important to get our head around what pain is, so that when you understand pain, first of all in the context of psychology, but secondly in the context of birth, that can really help you to wrestle with the pain thing and kind of shoot it to the ground, actually. So there's a whole chapter dedicated to pain. Isn't that fun? So the next chapter is about managing your birth choices. Now, this is really important part of birth prep, really thinking about what you want. Because unfortunately, when we start thinking about the births that we want, our decisions are sometimes based on our fears. So when I was first pregnant, my birth choice in my first trimester was C-section, lots of drugs. And that's because I was fearful of birth, fearful of pain. And so I was making choices based on fear. Now, I think it's important that we don't make choices based on fear, because they might not be choices that we're happy with in the long term. my view will always be deal with the fear, then make your choice. And it might change. Mine did. It doesn't happen to everybody, but a lot of women do change their mind once they've dealt with their fears. So I think it's really important that you understand what your choices are vis-a-vis your fears, and to almost have a parallel process running in something happening where you're educating yourself on one at the same time as doing fear clearance, and it's kind of feeding into a loop so that you're able to kind of land with a birth choice that you're happy with, that you're doing not from a place of fear. So this is where I talk about birth choices. I talk about why natural birth is a good choice for mother and why it's a good thing for baby. Now, this isn't about me ranting on and banging on about being a natural birth junkie or whatever that agenda, not at all. It's about why would, I cite the reasons why your baby wants you to have a natural birth, because there are some very, very compelling reasons why your baby wants that. Your unborn baby that doesn't have a choice, right? You're making choices on their behalf. So again, it's about being informed. It's about making choices that you are aware of the impact. Once you can be aware of that and still make the choice that you want to not have a natural birth, but do that from an informed place, not a place that's not informed. And then I finish off with a really interesting piece about what every pregnant woman needs to know about going into birth. And this is really useful to help you to prepare for birth, because a lot of women come out of difficult birth experience saying, I just wish I knew X. I just wish I knew. And I just wish I asked for this. I wish I just didn't say yes. I didn't know I could say no. These are a lot of comments that are heard time and time again. And so that chapter, what every pregnant woman needs to know, will help you deal with avoiding that kind of situation. Chapter 10, this is where we start diving into identifying your fears and stresses. So this is me basically coaching you. My background, I was a business coach, I was a personal brand coach, I was now a birth coach, but mindset coach. So, I've been coaching in many guises for over 10 years. So this is me coaching you through the pages of a book. It's the closest thing you'll get to me being there, unless obviously we work together directly. And then chapter 11 this is where I share the meat. This is where I share how you're going to clear your fears and the technique. That's where you learn that. Chapter 12 is dealing with difficult or traumatic experiences. A lot of women have got fears going into birth because of a previous birth experience or because of a previous traumatic experience that relates to birth. Maybe there's sexual abuse, maybe there's some kind of procedure that happened in a hospital that didn't go brilliantly. And so it's really helping you to deal with that on an emotional level. Of course, my advice in all trauma situations is to go and seek the help of a professional, because they can absolutely help you to get over this kind of stuff. In some instances, one session is all you need to deal with trauma. There are some very powerful, brilliant techniques today that can really help you to let this stuff go. So if you're listening to this and you've got a trauma that you really want to let go, a difficult birth experience, please go and get some professional help. It literally doesn't have to cost the earth, and it will help you to let go of that. But within the book, I do share some insights and stuff, but I do want to make that really clear that, there is help available. Chapter 13 is all about the head trash clearance essentials, is what I've called it, because basically I'm teaching you a really powerful fear clearance method, and there are bits that are worth knowing about the technique to help you to get better results, basically. So that's just some behind the scenes mindset stuff to help you to get really good results using the fear clearance method, the head trash clearance method. And then chapter 14 are some frequently asked questions, things that might come up for you as you're clearing your fears that you think, has this worked? Am I doing it right? That kind of stuff, basically, to help you do that. And then I finish off chapter 15 with preparing for birth. Wrapping all of that stuff up, and what does your birth prep plan look like? Now, I've identified the 9 steps of birth preparation, which you can download from the site. If you visit fearfreechildbirth.com, you can just get hold of that. I've got a birth prep program coming out very soon where you can literally walk through every single one of those 9 steps with all the exercises, with all the birth templates, with all the articles, all the things to help you make decisions at every step of the way. That is coming out very soon. If you want to take a more practical approach to your birth preparation and less mindset then that is the program for you that I offer, that basically talks you through what I talk you through in the book, but obviously in a lot more detail with a lot more information to support you on your birth journey. There are some things I talk in there about, visualization, which is not the hypnobirthing version of visualization, but the fearless birthing version of visualization. And also preparing the mind, what if things go off plan, preparing for things going off plan so that you can roll with the punches, you can stay resilient, you can stay in the moment, not get upset, not get anxious, not get fearful if things change, because that's the most important thing, is being able to be resilient. We can prepare for the beautiful water birth with fairy lights, but if that doesn't happen, then what? And that's the important thing, is be able to cope with your worst birth outcome. If you can handle that, that's what means that you can handle absolutely anything in life. And that's the kind of strong, fearless women that we need right now. Okay. So that is an overview of the book. If you buy the book, then you are able to get extra resources that support you on the book. There are downloads, there are things that come with the book as well. So once you buy it, there are links inside the book to tell you where you can get all that. So if you want to find out more about fearless birthing, then there is a website, fearless-birthing.com. You can buy it on Amazon, you can buy it on iBooks, all the usual, Barnes & Noble, Nook, all that good stuff. You can buy it anywhere. You can also buy it from the Fear Free Childbirth website as an ebook. And I have had doulas saying, oh my goodness, I need this for my lending library, I've got to buy it for all my clients. So if you are somebody that wants to buy more than one, then I have got a bundle of 5 books that's cheaper than Amazon. If you buy 5 at a time. So if you want to buy it, if you're a birth professional and you want to buy it for your lending library, or you are somebody who's read it and you think, I need to get a copy of this for all my friends, then you can buy 5 at once and you will save money from buying it on Amazon by doing it that way. You'll be buying it straight from my website. So find out that at fearfreechildbirth.com. So that's the overview of the book. I hope that was useful. I hope that now you know whether or not this is a book that's going to help you. Obviously there's loads more stuff that goes with the book. If you to continue on that journey, I've got my fear clearance meditations that address specific fears that can help you with. There's a Fearless Birthing Academy, which I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, that's the online program that goes with the book, that really dives a lot deeper. There's a lot more emotional clearance techniques that I share in the Fearless Birthing Academy to give you. I think there's 4 techniques in there to make sure that there's something there that's going to work for you for different situations. There's stuff there for trauma. So that you can find that at fearless-birthing.com/academy. Now, next week, I haven't decided what next week's episode is going to be, because I've got so many wonderful ones to choose from. So I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. And will it even be next week? I don't know. I just wanted to get the podcast back out, but I'm not going to promise that it's going to be a weekly episode, because I literally have so much to do. And I know, I don't think all my listeners appreciate this, because I do get some whingy people that go, oh, she's always talking about her stuff. It's like, well, yeah, I am. But each episode does take over a day of time, and I don't get paid for my podcasts. This is me just doing it because I want to help people. So so this is why, and I've got a lot going on right now. So I might not be able to do a weekly episode, is what I'm saying. I'm going to do what I can to make sure I get episodes out as I'm going to try and aim for weekly, but I'm not making any promises, because I don't want to be feeling bad for letting you down if I don't get a weekly one out, but I'm definitely going to try for that. So I hope that this episode was useful. As ever, if you haven't joined the Fear Free Childbirth Facebook group, come and join the Facebook group. There are lots of people in there that can support you. I go in there occasionally doing Facebook Lives and answering questions and giving not giving opinions, but answering questions. If you want to ask me any questions, the best place to do that is within the Facebook group. I get way too many emails now for me to be able to handle, and I end up taking 3 months to get back to people because the pile is just so ridiculously long, and I hate not getting back to people. Whereas in the Facebook, and the thing is, I get a lot of the same questions time and time again. So that's why the Facebook group is much better, because it means I can answer you and other people can see the answer, and it means I'm helping more than one person at a time, which is how I need to be doing it right now. So thank you for your understanding. Thank you for listening, and I will be back as soon as possible. Have a great week. Bye. Hello, you've just been listening to me, Alexia Leachman, on the Fear Free Childbirth podcast. Now, this is just a wee reminder that if you're looking for more help, support and guidance on your fear-free journey to motherhood, then visit fearfreechildbirth.com, where you can find fear clearance meditations, online birth prep courses, training for birth professionals, a membership community, and programs for overcoming tocophobia. Until next time, bye for now.